Barry, can you hear me all right?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Man, you got the professional setup. I better be able to hear you all right.
Hey, man, it's all I do now. So, yeah, gotta invest.
I can see that. You know, I got to do the boom mics or something because we're still, holding it here like I don't know. We like to walk around too much.
Like a caveman. Yeah, primitive.
Well, we technically are in a cave. This is our man cave. This is the We Don't Know Sports Studios, as we call it. So
nice.
It's a little bit of inflection of different memorabilia back here.
I dig it. I see a West Virginia banner. Okay. I see a lot of sports. I'm in NBA jams. Yeah. Is that working? Is that like a real working NBA jams video game?
Okay. It is.
That beats the hell out of a picture of myself. Yours is way better.
But that's
that stupid face.
That's a good looking picture, though. Hey, Barry, man, I really appreciate you giving us time and coming on the show. And I know you just wrapped up a show. What show did you just fit? What did you just finish?
I do a daily live 2-hour sports and entertainment show called Barry on Deck.
Okay, so is that like your own personal thing that you do? Is that more of a video podcast or YouTube channel? Like, what exactly is that?
Yeah, so I spent 7 years. Do you want to? Are we recording? Is this part of it, or do you want me to save it for the show? Or
man, let's tell me. We'll roll with it. I got it.
Let's go. Let's go, fam. I'm easy. Yeah. Right. So basically, I spent 7 years on ESPN Radio here in Houston, and for the first 4 years, I was on the weekend show leading up to kickoff, and then I got a shot at a midday show and won that, and so I spent 3 years with my own show called The Usual Suspects here in Houston. And then COVID happened and I got laid off. And so I was like, oh, what now? I guess I'm going to go back to sacking groceries. And a lot of my fans were like, no, do your own show on the internet. Do it on YouTube Live or Twitch or whatever. So I started on Twitch. Like I got my last show at ESPN was Wednesday. And my first episode of Barry on Deck was Monday. And that following Monday. And I basically was just like, well, I mean, I know radio really well. And I had been doing nightly live streams where because, the pandemic, I was bored. I would do radio for 2-3 hours and then I didn't leave the house. I was, scared to die.
Wasn't a whole lot to talk about in the sports world.
No, there was no sports. I'm a stand-up comedian. There was no comedy. There was just nothing. So I started doing these I called them nightly live chats, and it was just me. And I would just get people in my life that I thought were interesting. My barber, my vet who takes care of my cats, he's a double vet. He's a war vet and a vet, like an animal vet.
Gotcha.
So, just get random people and talk to them for an hour and stream it live. And the people that listen to my radio show would tune in. Well, as it so happens, that was the universe preparing me for a layoff, because when I got laid off, my fans that love the show were like, do your own thing and we'll watch. And that was 445 episodes ago, almost 2 years.
Holy shit, man. That's pretty crazy. So let me ask you this. I hate to ask a seriously impolite question, but
if you're going to ask me about the size of my junk, this is can we curse on this? I better make sure. Is this a family-friendly show?
Junk is appropriate. No, okay. we are rated explicit on iTunes, but
okay. I just wanted to make sure
how old are you?
I'm 47.
47. Man, props to you for even knowing how to use Twitch, because I'm 40 and I don't even have a damn clue on how to use it.
You youngsters today. No, look,
I have a 16-year-old who, he knows all about it. And it's beyond me. It's like me trying to understand cryptocurrency and things like that. It's just not my wheelhouse.
No, you know what? I come from an IT background. Before I got into radio, I spent 20 years in IT. I ended up as a project manager for Halliburton. Was my final gig, managing large infrastructure implementations in the Halliburton IT organization. So I knew my stuff technology wise. That's why it was kind of easy for me. I had owned my own. And back in 2010, I started a website here in Houston that covered the local MMA scene. So I learned. That's where I kind of cut my teeth on the internet. I learned, like programming and websites, and I learned video and how to edit. And we started our own podcast. So it was literally like all this training that I didn't know I was getting. So when Twitch rolled around, I was like, oh yeah. So you just add a camera and you go live. It was pretty easy. So it was an easy transition. So, and I'm glad I got the practice, because when it came time to okay, this is what I do now for a living. I had already had I think a month or 2 months under my belt as far as doing those nightly live chats, those interviews. So it made the transition pretty easy.
So everybody under the sun who's trying to do something like that, they rather have a YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. Why Twitch? What makes it such a nice platform for that show?
So I looked at it at, well, one, I started on YouTube, and the reason, so I had a one of my listeners, his name is AR Platinum, and he was on YouTube, and he had 70,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel.
All right.
And I was like, yo, that's great. What do you do? He was like, I scratch lotto tickets. And I was like, what? I was like, wait.
That sounds like YouTube.
So you just record yourself scratching lotto tickets and people watch this? He's like, dude, I got 70,000 people. That I was like, I don't understand this, but dude, to be honest with you, I didn't really understand Twitch. I'm like, who would want to watch someone else play a video game? I would rather play the video game than to watch someone else play a video. It would almost, to me, that was like watching somebody watch TV.
I was like, now you sound like my age a little bit.
Yeah, okay, right. Well, I'm 47. I was like, get off my lawn and get off my Twitch. Like I couldn't comprehend this. It seems stupid to me. And then this guy was like, man, we need to get you on YouTube. And you know, you're a comedian, you do radio. Your YouTube channel should have more subscribers. So he fortunately sent a bunch of his people my way, and my subscriber base built up. So when I started doing it, it was cool. I had like a kind of a built-in audience there plus radio.
Right.
Well, when I got laid off, the fact that you can monetize these shows on YouTube and Twitch once you become an affiliate there, and people can like send you money during the show. And on YouTube, they call those super chats. And on Twitch, they call them bits. Think of it for the old folks in the audience that are like, what the hell is a super bit? It's like a tip, right? You tip your favorite bartender. You might tip a guy that plays a piano at a restaurant that's entertaining. You tip a guy like a band, a musician, a street musician. I mean, think of YouTubers and Twitch streamers as street musicians.
So you just got the guitar case open there on the sidewalk, and you know what happens happens.
So when you're monetized on YouTube Live or on Twitch, people can send you money just for streaming, and they can subscribe in other ways. But this is one of the main ways. So when I lost my job, all I needed was 4,000 hours of watch time. I already had 1,000 subscribers, so it just made sense to do what I was doing at night for fun, do it during the day and get monetized, and then maybe I could make some sort of living off of it. And I got lucky, and I had a very, very supportive community and group of, I call them friends and family, but fans that listen to my radio show and were comedy fans of mine that really wanted to keep listening to me talking to a microphone and say dumb stuff.
So speaking of the comedy aspect, I can't help but go back to, you mentioned having a career in IT, and all the IT people I've ever met were always the most hilarious people I've ever come across.
Were they? Okay, that's good.
Not really. No, like what
my brothers and sisters weren't representing. Is that what you're telling me?
Not
the nerds.
Not the ones I've met, unfortunately. So what got you into stand-up comedy? How did that come about?
Man, I wanted to be a stand-up since I was 8 years old. I remember, so I come from a broken home.
I'm with you.
This is like the origin story for every comic ever, right? And it kind of reminds me of The Jerk. Did you ever watch The Jerk? The movie? Yeah. I was born a poor black child, and no, but I mean, my parents got divorced when I was 6. My sister was on drugs at 13. Like, it was like, so I was the let's not rock the boat. Let's not make it any weirder at the house than it already is. And my coping mechanism was to make the family laugh, to ease the pain of our suffering. And I realized that was funny. I would come home and tell stories from school, and everybody at the dinner table would laugh, and, oh, you're so funny. And I realized, okay, I can make people laugh. This is kind of cool. Well, then at the age of 8, I watched Bill Cosby himself. We
got fantastic.
Famous.
Yeah.
I mean,
say what you want about Cosby, but that
yeah, we all didn't know how rapey he was back then. We know now it's awful, right? But back then, like, I mean, so I'm sitting there watching. I didn't even know really what I was watching, but I just remember watching this man on stage telling stories and making people laugh. And something in my little 8-year-old brain went, I do that at the table. I want to do that on stage for thousands of people instead of 3.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to be a stand-up comic at 8. And I wanted to be that my whole life, but I was always under this, I guess you can call it imposter syndrome, where I was like, well, one, my family thinks I'm funny, but I'm not funny.
And then 2, I was self-doubt, right?
Yeah. Which I think all the best entertainers have to have that. If you're super cocky, you're probably not good at this.
Right. You need some type of reservation to check yourself.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, I live in Houston, Texas, and I was like, there's no industry here. There was no, I didn't know, coming up in my 20s, I never even thought about it. And then one day at 38, this is a theme in my life, but I found myself without a job again, laid off, which also is the origin story for most comics. Broken home, can't hold a job. And I was sitting around, I was like, I'm going to go do an open mic. That was 9 years ago, and I'm a nationally touring stand-up comedian now.
Man, that's awesome, because everybody can have these illusions of grandeur about like, oh yeah, I could go be a comedian. I can tell jokes because they make their friends laugh or whatever. Yeah. But that's a whole different element. So the first time you get on stage and you got the mic, like, what's that like for you? How did that go?
I mean, first of all, I'll say this, excuse my language, but comedy is a humbling bitch.
No,
she will humble you. Oh my God. Like, even when you're in it, like 9 years in, I'm like, I'm pretty good at this. And then I'll go eat shit at an open mic and be like, nope, I still got a lot to learn. I am not as good as I thought I was, like but I guess I was sitting around the house, no job. The wife is the breadwinner. I'm feeling depressed. And I was like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. Why don't I just do an open mic? And they tell you every comic. So this is kind of a weird story. It might not be entertaining, but I had a friend who worked with a comic, and that comic's name is John Witherspoon. And he goes, I know John Witherspoon. Go introduce yourself. Go to his open mic that he runs and introduce yourself, and maybe he'll help you. So I walked up. Hey, John, my name is Barry Laminack. My buddy, AJ Hoffman, said to talk to you. I want to be a comedian. He goes, cool. I was like, do you have any advice? He goes, yeah, watch, go 6 weeks and just watch, and then go home at night and write. Go to as many open mics as you can for 6 straight weeks. Every night, 2 or 3 open mics, whatever you can. Watch as much live comedy as you can. And when you're done, go home and write jokes, and do that for 6 weeks, and then start going on stage and doing it. Like, okay. So I started doing that, and I went back to him and I was like, hey, so I've been watching. I think I'm ready to go on stage. Do you have any advice? He said, not yet. Go on stage 10 times and then come back to me. So he was like kind of guiding me without guiding me. But it was one of those things. By the time I did that 6 weeks of watching, that was like an athlete, right? Like, if you're an athlete and you watch film enough, you're going to start to pick up on things. And if you're astute, and I had the advantage of being 38 when I started. If I was 18 or 28 without a bunch of real world experience, 20 years in corporate 50, country, or Fortune 50 companies in corporate America, with, you get some snap, you learn the ropes there. So it made transitioning into comedy a little bit easier, having that real world experience. Plus it gave me a lot more to pull from and write jokes about. So I just watched, and I went up, and I didn't bomb. And you're supposed to bomb when it's your first time,
right?
I didn't bomb.
Everybody does.
Yeah, but I didn't kill it. They were like, oh my God, Kevin Hart, who? This guy's amazing. But I didn't bomb. There was comics in the crowd, and they were laughing. I had people in the crowd were laughing. Now, they did shut the place down the very next day, so maybe I didn't do as good as I thought.
They were just giving away all the alcohol from the bar.
It was at a Mexican food restaurant, and they literally closed the next day. I was like, wow, that's a bad set when you shut down a Mexican food joint. But no, I mean, I went up, I did okay. And I wasn't good, but I was funny, right? Like, I wasn't polished. I didn't know the mechanics of comedy and the architecture of comedy, but I was just funny. And that was 9 years. April, what was my comedy in? April 13th? It'll be 9 years. When I started.
That's awesome. And I know this is a sports show, obviously, and we're going to talk about some sports stuff, but like you said, we like people, and we like the stories, kind of like what you did when the pandemic started. There's only so many times you can talk about The Last Dance, because that's the only thing that happened. So you end up talking about all kinds of things. So one of the things I got to ask, since you are in the world of that stand-up comic, life, well, who's your influences? So outside of, taking your notes and going to shows and things like that, just when you look at maybe more wider known comedians out there, who do you kind of pull from a little bit, or who do you look at as has the nicest craft that you try to model?
It's a great question. And it's a weird, in any other industry that you could think of, I think that an answer would be okay in most people's eyes to be like, oh yeah, I model myself after this. In comedy, at least the way I was taught the business by a bunch of grizzled old school road comics and whatnot. In comedy, the ultimate sin is thievery. That is right. Literally, you might be hacky as far as like you do dad jokes or puns or, you know, one-liners, or you tell story, whatever your style is. You might play the guitar, or use a puppet or whatever. And not everybody will like that, but that's just part of the business. But if you're a joke thief, if you're a thief of material, it's the ultimate sin. It's the PEDs of the sports world. It's steroids. It's corking the bat. It's, you know what I mean? It's the Vaseline.
All of it combined. Yeah.
It's awful. It's the most egregious sin. It's banging the trash cans in Houston. So
sorry.
So I was just taught early on, just originality was it. So you know what I didn't do? I didn't model myself after anybody. I had comics that I enjoyed and that I loved to listen to, but I tried from day one to be authentically me. And so for that very reason, I don't watch a lot of comedy now. At first I did, but it was more of studying, right? It was film sessions. It was looking at the mechanics of comedy. Why does he look this way? Like, it's weird. People don't know this, but like, if you watch certain comedians, they'll have certain rhythms. Comedy's a lot like music. There's like a rhythm to it, right? If you watch Chris Rock, there's a lot of times in a Chris Rock show where he starts the joke on the left-hand side as he walks. He paces the stage as he does the setup. But when he gets to the middle of the stage, he looks dead center into the crowd and does the punchline. And so there's this kind of dance. There's this rhythm. It's super weird and nerdy.
I know what you mean, though. That cadence is definitely there for a lot of them.
And you kind of, the crowd gets into the rhythm. He gets into the rhythm. And that's why you're like, man, when you walk away, you're like, that guy's amazing. That show, because there's just like this harmonic thing that happens, right? So that's why I spent a lot of time studying, not necessarily like material or, oh, I want to be like Bill Burr, whom I love. Bill Burr is my favorite comedian, but I don't watch a lot of Bill Burr because I don't want to get on stage and just be a poor imitation of Bill Burr. And there's a lot of comics that unfortunately do that at first. And it's okay, because you can tell there's like, okay, I'll give you an example. There was one comic here in Houston. His name is Grady Pruitt. He's in New York now. Hilarious. I mean, this dude is so funny. But when he first started, he sounded like Nate Bargatze. He just and he said he didn't even really like Nate Bargatze, but I was like, dude, you have got to figure out how to not sound like Nate Bargatze when you do your jokes. And he's kind of slowly found his own. We had another guy that sounded like Bill Burr that I told the same thing to. And then there's other guys who are trying to rip off Mitch Hedberg. They're literally doing his jokes and his cadence. So that's the big split, right? If you're stealing from Mitch, you're an asshole. But if you just sound like Nate because he influenced you, just find your own voice, because you're still doing your jokes. You're funny. Just be funny in your voice and not his.
So is Carlos Mencia like the poster child for that? That's I can't tell you exactly that's what it is, but I feel like I've heard that my whole life, that he's the biggest.
That's the most public accusation of joke thievery in comedy.
Yeah,
is Carlos Mencia. But you would be surprised how many comics are joke thieves. A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people don't know this, but rest in peace to Robin Williams, a notorious joke thief. I mean, and he's hilarious, but Robin Williams was known to steal a joke or 20.
I can't remember the documentary I saw of him recently, and they actually went into that a little bit, where he basically, they didn't say it in an unflattering way, but it was that he had the innate ability to take something else and make it better. It was
still kind a joke thief.
It's kind of what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, and that's why I don't watch, because I don't want to, like, there's this thing where, like, if I have a joke, because there is such a thing as parallel thought, right? And it's not thievery. I'll give you an example of a stupid and crude joke that I wrote when I first started. I thought of this idea of, I had gone to the urologist, and we were talking about, just men stuff. And then like there was a pamphlet about freezing your sperm. and having it for later, for, if you want to have kids later, maybe you can, or something happens. And so I wrote this joke, a stupid joke about, man, I was worried I was gonna, so I decided to freeze my sperm. And do you know how long it takes to fill up an ice cube tray with your own? And that was the joke, right? Stupid, dirty, gross. And I did it. I don't even do the joke anymore, but I'm at home one night watching Gotham Comedy Live. Guy I don't even know, never heard of this dude. He's on stage and he tells a joke about freezing his semen in an ice cube tray. I was like, are you shitting me? Now, I'm not like, I haven't made it. I've not done comedy outside of Houston. So there's no way he stole this joke, but that's a very specifically weird, odd, dirty joke. And he did it. So the rule in comedy is first person to get to TV and do the joke owns the joke. So at that moment, I literally scratched that joke off the list, and I've never done it since.
Yeah, it wasn't a great one.
To TV. So that's kind of the rules. And there's a lot of rules in comedy, and most of it involves around thievery and stuff like that.
So weird. So as you've toured and been around the country, anybody notable you've crossed paths with?
Oh man, I've gotten to work with so many great comics and so many wonderfully talented people that you've never heard of, and plenty that you have. I got to open for George Wallace. I've opened for, who's a legend.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even Seinfeld's a roommate. Like, George Wallace is upper echelon. But I've opened for Big J Okerson, John Witherspoon before he passed away. Sadly, I was his last opener.
Oh wow.
And then he passed. And my buddy Alan Adams was like, your material was so bad,
it killed him.
I was like, you asshole. That is not. By the way, greatest story of my life is I got to go to a strip club with John Witherspoon. Oh, when you going to go to a strip club with Pops from Friday?
Oh, that's
the moment of my life.
That's got to be a bucket list item you probably never wrote down, but we'll add it to the list.
So great. He was like, hey, me and the host for the night. So in comedy, there's 3 comedians you usually see on a show. The first one's the host, and he's usually the least experienced of the 3. Kind of goes, the more you get into the show, the more experienced and the better the comics get. But Ben's an amazing comic, and he could actually headline. So the show was great. And Ben was the host. I was the feature, and John Witherspoon was the headliner. And we're just kind of hanging out after the show on a Saturday. There was one more show to go on Sunday. And Spoon is like, hey, where's a strip club around here? You want to go to the strip club? And Ben, find us a strip club. So Ben starts looking for a strip club. Meanwhile, I'm on the phone with my wife. I'm like, look, John Witherspoon wants to go to the strip club. I'm going to this. So it was great. Like, everybody was on board with that, even the wife. So very cool. But yeah, I mean, like, dude, I've worked with guys that you maybe have never heard of that are just amazingly hilarious. Like Greg Morton recently was on America's Got Talent, but really people hadn't heard of him before that, but he's so funny. Dusty Slay. I've just been lucky to work with a lot of really good, really talented comedians.
So let's talk back to some Houston sports here. Did you use your knowledge of James Harden and strip clubs to help John, or is that how you found your strip club with Witherspoon that one night?
He didn't need my help, but Harden should write a book for sure. Harden could write like the ultimate bachelor night book. It could be like, there's a website called Bro Bible. If Harden wrote a strip club book, it would be the Bro Bible. Like, this guy, I feel like Harden has coupons. He's so into strip clubs. He's probably got a Groupon for a 3-for-1 lap dance or something. I don't know. That dude is he's a grizzled vet of the strip club scene. That is for sure.
He is a legend in those worlds. That's for sure. Which I guess the NBA kind of is in general, not as much as it used to be, but there's still that niche of players, man, that they definitely like the strip clubs. Magic City,
my attention. I didn't look it up, but somebody said Harden's numbers when he's on the road in Miami are the worst of his career.
That would make sense.
Good thing they don't play in Miami.
Good thing they don't have a team in Vegas. That would be even worse, probably.
No, but man, Miami strip clubs.
I'm sure.
I went to when I was a nerd in IT. I used to travel, and we would go to strip clubs a lot. And I was in a strip club in Miami, and that was the wildest experience. We were sitting there, and I heard somebody clapping. I was like, "Oh, is the performance over with?" And the music had stopped, and I was like, "Oh, it's over with." And I start clapping. And I look up, and it's just a chick on stage, and she's making her booty actually clap. And it was so loud that it sounded like people clapping. And that was just like, I had no idea that was possible.
So your natural response is just to do a standing ovation, which seems like an appropriate response.
I didn't know, but I wasn't looking. That's why I was clapping. But no, I wasn't going to stand up. That would have been awkward. Then it'd be like, oh,
yeah. Don't stand up. Don't stand up. Don't wear sweatpants. Don't wear.
That's a rule I live by. Don't wear sweatpants to a strip club. That's a pretty good rule.
All right, so let's dive into Houston sports here a little bit. Yeah, so just since it's the most recent of all the stories out there. As somebody who's covering sports, though, are you a little sad to see the saga end when it comes to Deshaun Watson? Or, I mean, just unpack all that for me if you can.
Yeah, from like a selfish perspective. However, because he could be a creep and a weirdo in Cleveland, and I can still talk about it. But if as a fan of the team, I'm so relieved that it's over with. This city has kind of been held hostage for a little over a year now, and it was just this one death blow after another to this city. When you go back and you look at after the World Series, that was I feel like Houston sold its soul to the devil for that World Series.
The first
2017 2017 Houston Astros World Series, because shortly after that, Garrett Cole's gone. Yep. Then they lose George Springer. Now they've lost Carlos Correa. The cheating scandal happened, right? They've gotten close, but they've never won it again. Then you lose James Harden. Now you lose Deshaun Watson. Bill O'Brien destroys the Texans franchise by trading DeAndre Hopkins for a bag of sunflower seeds. It was just one detrimental move after another in this city. And it was like, what good is going to happen? And I think right now, the only good thing is there's one less emotional toll being held over our heads here in Houston.
You at least got a place to restart from now.
Well, and you got some draft picks, and it's hard to rebuild if you don't have the draft picks, and you had mortgaged your future because Bill O'Brien's a dumbass and he's a better coach than he'll ever be as a GM. He wasn't even a great coach.
No, but he was
this franchise.
Oh, terrible
this
GM.
Franchise. Yeah. When you think about the moves, Laramie Tunsil, look what this franchise gave up to get Laramie Tunsil. In fact, if you go back, there was a tweet I saw. They showed what the Dolphins turned the Laramie Tunsil trade into, and it was like 9 players.
Oh yeah,
Tyreek Hill, Waddle, like 4 other, like 2 linemen, a D end. Like it was just like what? All from the draft picks and everything else. The swapping of picks and everything they got during that trade, and in return, you look at that and you look at D-Hop, right? Okay. Devontae Adams gets a first and a second this year by being traded to the Raiders. Tyreek Hill gets a first and a fourth this year, a first and a fourth next year, and then another fourth or a fifth or something like that to go to, and the Texans got David Johnson, who might as well be out there with 1 foot. He might as well be a running back who's missing an ankle or something. And in his contract, and then I think they got like a 3rd round pick for the best receiver in football. So it's just been a nightmare. So the fact that then this happens, of course, Deshaun says, I want out because the Texans are so poorly run. The front office is a joke. Jack Easterby is the devil. I know he's a preacher. He's the devil. He's running this franchise. I literally made a shirt for my show. It says Fire Easterby, and I've been selling them, and I don't care.
They probably sell pretty well.
They do pretty good. I want to do a billboard down here. I think that'd be great. Just a Fire Easterby billboard. But yeah, then Deshaun says he wants out and he's hurt. And by the way, my barber is Deshaun Watson's barber. So I had all the scoop. I had all the inside knowledge, which was great. But the reason he wanted out because he just didn't, they said they were going to value his input and then just ignored him in every single facet of what they did. Because he was like, I'm gone.
On the outside looking in for a lot of us, we knew that he wanted to get out, and then all these allegations and everything came out. So it was easy to think maybe he just wanted to get away from Houston before this stuff blew up. But, my question now that he's at Cleveland, which first of all, amazing contract, that's going to completely change a lot about how these NFL teams do business, which is just, I can't even.
David Mullighetti should, if there's an award for agent of the year, forget Drew Rosenhaus, forget.
We always said Joe Flacco's agent was probably the best agent of all time, but now
David Mullighetti
it's topped.
if you're Deshaun Watson and you turned in the turmoil that was your exit from the Houston Texans on top of criminal allegations of sexual assault and impropriety, plus 22 civil cases of sexual impropriety and assault, and you parlay that into a $46 million raise and $230 million guaranteed when you were at 184 and not all guaranteed, you have the best agent on the planet.
You haven't even played for a year. I mean, who knows what you're going to play like?
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like he should just take that 30 of the 230 guaranteed and give it to Moghetti because he earned every dime.
I'm sure he's getting a piece. How many games do you think he gets suspended? Is it a whole season or just partial?
No. Now I will say this. I don't know if you heard this, but we talked about it today on my show. He is now in another grand jury hearing. So the grand jury that he had to face here in Harris County, well, I'm not in there, but in Houston, Harris County, he was no billed on those charges. But one of the complainants of the 22 is in Brazoria County, which is a surrounding county of Harris County in Houston.
Right.
And that's where the grand jury hearings are taking place. So those were separate than the original criminal charges that he was no billed on.
So now that still can
impact. And apparently the Browns knew this when they did the deal, that he might face another grand jury hearing in another county, and that has come to fruition as of today. So it'll be interesting. But yeah, I look, I think what he did on the field is he's lucky. I'll just say this. Deshaun Watson is lucky he's not Marcus Mariota. You know what I mean?
Well, there's that sliding scale, that controversy and skill, and your value that your skill gives you can help that controversy scale a little bit. And you're absolutely right. If he was Ryan Fitzpatrick, if he was, he's not going to be in the same situation, obviously.
Yeah. Well, he's in a, he chose Cleveland. I was surprised because my source, which was my barber, his barber, was like, yeah, he definitely does not want to be in a cold weather city.
I guess what happened though was once Baker felt like the jilted lover and started complaining, and he said he wanted out and he's done, then Cleveland just went ahead and doubled down, because remember the talks had broke off and then they came back, and he started
recruiting people to go to Atlanta with him.
Yeah, to me, it seems like he pretty much told Cleveland what he would need, and they're like, oh, okay.
So the way I heard it happened was he had decided early on, after he narrowed it down to 4 teams, it was Cleveland, Atlanta, Carolina, and New Orleans.
Right.
And then Cleveland was out for a couple of different reasons.
One, they were the first one that was
the first eliminated of the finalists, right? Like he went through and eliminated a lot of people. He wanted to actually play in Indy, and the Texans said no. The Texans said, we will not trade you in the division, which is very smart. I mean, at least they did one thing right in all of this. But yeah, they also had a say in this in a certain way. And so they said, no, you're not going in the division, you can go anywhere else. But yeah, the first one eliminated was the coldest weather city in an open air stadium. And one that when last time he was there in the he didn't play well. He didn't perform well in the cold and all this and that. I mean, you got to remember, he's born in Atlanta, played in Clemson. He's a Southern boy. Likes the warm weather of the South. Not that but Carolina has 4 seasons, right?
It's not Cleveland.
Right. So that's what was the most shocking, because all along, I mean, I broke the news, and I was so mad that everybody on Twitter was trying to act like, but remember when they started saying, oh, Miami, that's where he's going to go. I had broke that back in February because of my source. He's like, hey, just between you and me, I'm flying to Miami. I'm going to cut his hair. He's flying me in. I was like, oh, he's like, yeah. So I kind of got to break that, which was cool. But then,
wait, real quick. Is Deshaun the guy that was supposed to meet on the boat? Is he the same guy? That's what it seemed like to us.
I don't know, but half of the people that I talked to say it was Brady, and the other half say it was Deshaun.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I could buy both, I suppose.
Yeah, I see. Me too. I could believe both of those because they were interested in both of them. Hell, they wanted Brady to become part owner of the Dolphins. They offered him ownership. So I could see either one. But yeah, that one thing led to another. And then here the allegations hit soon after. That put a pause on everything. Fast forward a year, because you got to get through this and get to the depositions. at the grand jury. And by that time, Brian Flores gets fired from the Dolphins. And now they're all in upheaval. And he's like, okay, I'm good. I'll just skip Miami because I wanted to go there with Brian Flores and everything else. So it just changed the course. I mean, it was just so many zigs and zags in this journey. As a Houston Texans fan, which I use that term loosely, as jaded as I am with this franchise and their current ownership, I'm relieved that it's over. That's the big thing.
You don't seem real optimistic though that they're going to pick the pieces up. And hey, if it makes you feel any better, man, I'm a Bengals fan and I have been my whole life. And up until this past year, I know how it feels, you know. And then now all of a sudden we act like we're going to start being a franchise. So if we can do it.
Listen, though, you guys had success in the past. I remember the Oilers getting their ass whooped by Sam Weish and the Bengals. And what's his name?
That's 50 years ago. Boomer Esiason.
Boomer Esiason. But you had there was another cat, Ken
Anderson. Yeah.
Ken Anderson was pretty good.
Yeah, but people then need to remember what happened from 1990 until like 2003, and then we had a little blip there. But anyway, my point is, I have faith at the Texans. And the good thing is, you're in a terrible division, so hopefully it won't take that much to figure it out. But
yeah, I thankfully running backs lifespan in the NFL is short, so Derrick Henry's window of opportunity shrinks every month we get in the future. It shrinks some,
and he's going to keep carrying it 300 times a year, so that'll
ain't gonna last long, right?
Keep
I'm not
games.
Worried about the drags. Trevor Lawrence doesn't impress me. That they just spent a bunch of stupid money. Christian Kirk got 70-something million.
They have the highest paid wide receiver core in the league now.
And you probably wouldn't even see, if you saw them on the streets, you'd be like, oh, are those
no wonder Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill are getting these deals, because they're like, well, look what Christian Kirk got. Thanks a lot, Jacksonville. You screwed the market up for everybody.
I heard and read from people that, dude, most of the NFL was pissed that Jacksonville was spending the kind of money they were spending on the caliber of player, because they're like, this is not, what are you doing? You're not spending the right money on the right people, you know? So,
wow, that crazy.
I'm glad you have faith in the Texans, by the way. I have zero. I've seen what this franchise has done, and I think a lot of this is predicated around Jack Easterby. I hope Nick Caserio is the right guy. His draft last year was decent. It's hard to mess up a first-round pick, right? And they have 2 of them over the next 3 years. So you're going to get 6 first-rounders. Great. I mean, if 5 of the 6 end up being starters and good players, that's pretty good.
Hey, that's kind of what the Dolphins just went through. So maybe you can
Denver
have some similar.
Kind of do the same thing. I mean, the Browns have built through the draft and then trades. And I mean, there are teams, Bengals. No. You know, there's teams that have done this, but I think their ownership crew is a little bit better.
To preface my optimism, I wasn't necessarily saying right away. It might take a little bit of time. So, you know, patience is a virtue, I guess. All right. When are the Houston Rockets going to be relevant again?
I give them 3 years.
All right. What's it going to take? What does that look like?
I'm a little worried that Green is not the guy. But with all of the picks that they have and the young talent that they have, and the fact that in basketball, it only literally takes one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about that, in the NFL, you can't just get one draft pick, even if it's a Patrick Mahomes. Imagine Patrick Mahomes plays for the Lions. Yeah, they might win 8 games, but they're not, you know what I mean? Instead of their normal 4 to 6. But when you have Patrick Mahomes and then you have Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and the running game, and you get some defenders and add Tyrann Mathieu to the back end of that defense, like then you start to, but you have that centerpiece. So in basketball, it's a lot easier, because if you add Ja Morant to the Memphis Grizzlies, all of a sudden, holy shit, Memphis is a contender. Right?
They're amazing now. Yeah.
Yeah. And that wasn't his first year in the league that it took that. I mean, you saw he was talented, but look, he's evolved over the last couple of years into this superstar.
Absolutely.
Maybe the MVP of the league if he stays healthy. So it's just going to take one of those, but I don't think it's Jalen Green. He's gotten better, but he's just not. He hasn't. I was worried about his jump shot mechanics and the way it's kind of funky delivery when he shoots it, and how do you fix that? Can you fix that? I mean, they tried that with the middle ball brother. Or the oldest, and he had Lonzo. A funky jump shot. Yeah, Lonzo. So I mean, then where's he? Nobody's like, the youngest is actually the best at the ball.
Oh yeah.
But nonetheless, I think they can turn it around because all they need is to hit on one of these. That's it. And then you bring in some depth and some talent around him and you're good.
Yeah. That's the thing. And some of these other teams with the stars, like they're not getting any younger. So yeah, if you hit it right, you could get a resurgence there. So we'll see what happens. All right. Let me ask you about the Astros. So, our favorite team to root against, trash cans.
The most hated.
So my buddy, one of my co-hosts, who's not with us this evening, he is the biggest diehard Braves fan in the world. So he really he went to the World Series and really enjoyed his time down there. But anyway, the Astros, like you mentioned earlier, they've had some of these pieces kind of fall apart here, not fall apart, but move away. And
they're hemorrhaging talent.
Yeah. So just in the division, the Mariners all of a sudden have decided they want to just start spending jack and get players like crazy. So what's your prognostication on the Astros? I know the season's right around the corner here. So what's if you had to put an over under on wins, what are you thinking?
I think this team can still win like 90, 95 games. I think they need Lance McCullers Jr. to come back and be healthy. Yes. He's super key. That guy is a one anywhere else where Justin Verlander isn't. You know what I mean? Like he's an ace on a lot of stuff.
I had him on my fantasy team last year, baby. I know all about McCullers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like he's got the stuff. I mean, anybody that can go in the playoffs against a Yankees lineup throw 27 curveballs in a row and not get shelled, get outs, and win the game. That's a damn good curveball. Probably one of, if not the best curveballs in baseball. When he's healthy. So that's a key, right? I'm a little worried about their depth at the position. If they're like, Jake Odorizzi's hit 93 in spring training. If that's your anchor after Verlander, you got some work to do. Jake Odorizzi was, for lack of a better word, ass last year. It was bad.
Yeah.
So you lose Correa, you've lost Springer, Garrett Cole's gone. When you think about the talent that is left this organization and gone elsewhere, it might be as good as the talent that's remaining. And that's the thing. We still don't know if Kyle Tucker going to be consistently, is he going to play as well as he did last year? He looked like he was an emerging young star. I won't call him a superstar.
I think MLB Network had him as like the 5th best left fielder.
Right fielder.
No. Yeah.
I don't see it, but okay. That's fine. It's just he's quiet in the way that he does it, right? But I mean, you still have good guys. Is Bregman going to get his swagger back? That's what to me hurts the most about losing Correa. Is once the Astros were outed as cheaters in 2019, Bregman relied on that swagger and being the bad guy and being the most hated, and he loved it and he thrived on it. But it was all in good fun in the nature of baseball. But when they were labeled as cheaters and when nobody believed that they could achieve what they achieved without cheating, I think it devastated a lot of these dudes' egos. You saw Jose Altuve shrink. He wasn't having fun anymore. His team didn't have fun the last couple of years. Since the cheating scandal, bro. This used to be I don't know if you remember this, but Hank Conger used to do the Conger bot in the Astros dugout, and Springer. They literally had this thing called Club Astros from like 2015 to 2018, where every time they won, they would put on a strobe light and play music, and Springer would DJ. Dude, they did none of that in the last year.
Oh no. You could tell, like, once the news broke and then they were getting grilled in the interviews about it and everything else, like the thing that probably helped them the most was the fact you had the COVID season, and it changed you couldn't go
1 year with no fans.
Yeah. So it made everybody relax a little bit, or at least the pain healed more. But you're right. That team beforehand was so jovial and just had the
fun,
excitement. Yeah.
Cocky, but not brash. I mean, Bregman was a little put. I mean,
nobody was hating on the Astros.
They were likable. They were a likable, if you were a Yankee, you probably didn't like them because they whooped your ass every year in the playoffs.
But that's what made all of us like them. And then they screwed it up. Damn it. Those bastards in the trash can. Why'd they do it?
But I mean, the big loss to me is now that you lost Correa, because when you look at last season, and this is Alex Bregman that just wasn't the same mentally. Altuve wasn't the same. Yuli's kind of getting older. Verlander was out with the surgery, and they lacked leadership in a lot of ways. And Correa, and I argued with one of my radio buddies about this on Twitter today, but Correa's leadership, and not just on the field, because he would get on the mound and yell at Framber Valdez to get his head in the game, and it would make a difference, get the out, get out of the inning. It mattered, right? Like, he's a good leader on the field, It was off the field. It was with the media and the fans and the accusations from other players. And he would stand in the microphone and look in the camera and say, we're over it. And we don't care if you don't like us. We're not cheating now and we're beating everybody. So deal with it. We're back in the ALCS. We're back in the World Series and we haven't cheated to do it. We're just good ball players that made a mistake. And they needed somebody like that. They needed somebody to step up, and it was huge what Correa did. I mean, I forget who it was. I think it was Cody Bellinger or somebody said something about the Astros cheating and used misinformation. And
I know Correa what you're talking about.
Yeah, literally says Cody Bellinger needs to shut his mouth if he doesn't have his facts right. No one else on the Astros was saying that because they knew they were wrong, and they just kind of wilted and just, hey, we'll just don't say anything. Just let them talk their mess, but not Correa. And he kept that swagger through the entire season. He kept that swagger. He kept the team confident. It was a quieter confidence, but they rallied around his charisma, his swagger, and his ability to stand out front and say, I'm not scared of this moment, whatever this moment is, right? Post cheating, I'm not scared of it. And you look at the season he had, and it was the exact season they needed. Altuve wouldn't do that.
No, so that one hurts. That one hurts. Then that one hurts that he's gone.
So losing Correa, I think, is a big loss just from that stand. Who's going to step up now? I mean, we know Verlander's a guy, but he's also old, and he, But so Verlander's a great leader in the clubhouse, but he only pitches one every 5 days. But when you got a shortstop who's facing the media every day because he's playing every day, and his defense is stellar, maybe the best defensive shortstop in baseball right now. Don't at me, host. Just go back and watch the tape. You know what I mean? Like when that was the difference. Altuve doesn't do those kind of interviews. Altuve's not going to face the music on national TV. No. You remember that they would ask Correa about cheating, and he wouldn't dodge it. He wouldn't go, hey, we're past that. He would answer it. He'd be like, hey, I'm sorry the fans don't like it. We regret it, but you know what? We hadn't done it, so shut up about it.
Yeah, Altuve would sulk all the time, man. I like, you could feel like how uncomfortable he was when they would ask him and grill him about that. And you're right. When I go back and think about Correa, man, he was always that dude. So
look at the post game interviews of was it the ALCS when they had Bregman on and Correa and Altuve? Look at the differences. Anybody that's seriously into this, go back and watch the three of those guys. It was three monumentally different interviews at that desk with A-Rod and Big Papi and whoever it was. You had this Bregman guy who was kind of used to have swagger, but he was just like, yeah, I'm really excited. We're on to the World Series. And Altuve was the same way. And it was Correa. He sat up in the chair. He wasn't afraid of the moment. He wasn't afraid to talk about that or anything else. It was huge.
So the difference between a couple of them still seeking redemption, the other one just not giving a fuck. He's just ready to go. Yep.
Yeah, we can't fix it. It's the old base. It's the athlete mentality. You can't change what happened last week, last game, last inning, last quarter, last pitch. You can only control what's going to happen next, and he was the only one that had that mentality.
We've had a lot of ex-ball players come on the show and talk, and most of them, they're really against it, but like we had some pitchers, and like the one I remember was we talked to Jack McDowell, and he was just like, man, this kind of thing has been going on forever, and we all know that, and it's like anything. If you speed, you're guilty, but you're only guilty if you get caught speeding, right? Like everybody's speeding.
We're all doing 80 and a 65.
And every MLB team out there is doing something to get an advantage. Now, the lengths that the Astros went to, it was bad. And, the punishment got handed down. But the one thing that just drives me crazy about baseball is just the lack of consistency when it comes to how people react to things like this. It's just nuts. Yes. But anyway,
I saw one guy on Twitter try to liken it to the murder.
Right. Because
the Yankee letter is coming out in less than 2 weeks now. The one that baseball had sealed. Oh, I can't wait. Oh my God. I can't wait. I cannot wait to see what's in that letter. I hope it's so damning that they have to break up the Yankees and fold the franchise, and that Rob Manfred has to quit his job and go work at Arby's. I hope it's so bad.
If it got Rob Manfred to go work at Arby's, I'm
oh my God, I hope it's bad. Because then, you know, and every Astros fan's gonna be like, see, we told you everybody else cheats. And that's the thing that got me, is this guy was like, yeah, but it's like murder. There's different degrees. I'm like, bitch, if someone died, what are you talking about? That's the stupidest argument. What you should have said is it's like different types of crimes, right? Like there's like going through my mail, and then there's murdering somebody. They're both crimes.
And somewhere in there is banging on a trash can, right?
And let's be real about this, Chad. The only reason the Astros are in trouble is because the Red Sox and Yankees led the way and did the electronic cheating first. Well, I should say didn't do it first, but got busted first doing it. With the Apple Watch, with the Red Sox, and the Yankees moved their cameras in the stadium. They literally moved the entire broadcast cameras so they could get a better shot of the bench manager on the opposing dugout.
You're doing a really good job trying to get me to restore that hate back to the Yankees and not the Astros.
There's a lot of reasons to hate the Yankees. There's a ton of reasons to hate the Yankees. I could do this all day. But yeah, like, I mean, let's see what it is. Let's see what it is. They fought vehemently to have that hidden. There's something in there, and I can't wait to see what it is.
Well, Barry, I know you just got done doing a show before you came on. You've given me plenty of time, man. And you know what's great is usually when guests come on, we always have this little debrief before, but we kind of got into the conversation right away, and we're like, screw it, we'll do it live. You know?
Yeah, we'll do it live.
But I did have one question that one of my co-hosts, Biggie, wanted me to ask you. And do you have any dealings, or have you met Mattress Mac at all? Like, he's dying to know.
I do. Yeah, I've met Mac several times. My old co-host, when I did my radio show here on ESPN Houston, my old co-host was really good friends with Mattress Mac. And so he would do our show all the time. I actually have a bit, one of my more well-known bits, at least down here, was about Mattress Mac. And people would send it to him. He'd be like, you the one that did the joke about the floods and Joel Osteen. I was like, yeah, that is it. So yeah, great dude. Bit of a gambling problem, but yeah, a wonderful human being. And everyone talks about Joel Osteen and the church, but literally there is no better human being in this city when it comes to helping people than Mattress Mac. The most generous.
So I didn't know that at first. I only knew him as the gambler because every time he places those big bets, it pops up. But I was just trying to, get some facts in order.
Everybody else around the country knows Mattress Mac for his gambling and his wagering. What we know him here in Houston for is when Hurricane Harvey hits, literally before Joel Osteen Church opens their doors. And this is part of my joke, but this is the fact. Mattress Mac has 2 locations in the city. That's it. 2 stores in the entire city of Houston of 6 million people. And he makes all this money off of those 2 stores, but they're so big. In flood, he opened the doors and just people came because they had nowhere to go. They went to Gallery Furniture and he set up food and he fed people. All the first responders that were out pulling people out of houses, they were like from Louisiana. People were coming from all over the country to help us in this city. And Mattress Mac was letting the first responders actually sleep in the beds because he's Mattress Mac. He's got the shit ton of beds on the showroom. And once that happens, you can't sell those. So what he does, he gives them to people for their house. Like, it's just amazing, dude. And he does this all the time.
Which, like I said, I learned that today. I was today's years old when I found that out because I wanted to make sure I was getting my facts straight. And I started looking him up and I was like, holy shit, this guy's a legend down there. It's not just what we see. Dude. Like, I'm in West
Joel Osteen. I'm going to the Church of Gallery Furniture. I don't give a shit. That's my joke. People say, "Are you Presbyterian?" No, I'm Posturpedic. I'm getting all them mattresses.
Hell yeah, bud. All right. Well, I just want to give everybody a reminder. Barry on Deck. That's the show. You can find it on Twitch.
Yep.
You got anything else going on? You got any comedy shows coming up anytime soon?
I mean, I'm trying to get a schedule together, but yeah, if you want to follow me, my social media is real easy. It's 2 places. My show, which is Barry on Deck, has all of its own social media stuff. So just look for @Barry on Deck, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, whatever it is. I've got that. And then my comedy is Barry is Funny. And that's all the same brand on whatever. So the websites are barryondeck.com, barryisfunny.com. The social media is Barry on Deck or Barry is Funny. Just search it and you'll find me.
You got big balls just to say Barry is funny.
You better be either confident or stupid, right? Or both, a little bit of both.
I hear you, bud. All right. Well, Barry, thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been a fantastic experience. We're going to drop it as a solo show. A lot of times we do these interviews. We'll put them on with our big show we do once a week, but you'll be a little weekend special. So we'll throw it out there for everybody this weekend. So, man, brother, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate this, guys.